expert, the guy. Matty's got jokes and a wild ride. 30 minutes, no time to spare. Stack your lineup, win anywhere. SuperCoach Halfa, get your edge, get faster. Taylor leads, Matty's laughter. NFL SuperCoach Halfa.
For the Aussie Gridiron Network, welcome to the NFL SuperCoach Halfa Podcast. We've managed our way through 10 weeks and somehow we are here on episode 15. Thank you for all your wonderful support, because it is the first one where I can do this for quite some time. I need everyone, get on your feet and please welcome in Australia's finest fantasy analyst. It's Taylor. Welcome back, mate.
Matty C and I have finally united and we've gotten back our mojo. For the viewers' sake, thank fuck they don't have to hear either of us go solo. Let's go.
Let's go indeed, mate, because I know that when you did the first solo one, you really brought as much as you could, and you sort of admitted afterwards it's kind of exhausting.
Oh, fuck all the way. I'm a heart attack.
God, I didn't had a few in a row where I was trying to do the same thing, and mate, it's the same thing. It's just not the same.
Mate, when I realised I was going to do a second solo podcast, I was like, do I need a defibrillator in the car? Like, am I gonna need some kind of like CPR to like keep my heart going? Because mate, it was brutal. But for whatever reason, the second one I seemed to do a bit better. I wasn't puffing and panting. I sort of got through my stuff a bit more concise. But nothing beats you and I on the podcast together.
Agreed.
Mate, can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's meant to be, mate. This is how God intended, mate.
I'm pretty certain when he, started things, it was just literally, what was the first thing he thought of? And it was just like, we've got to have Matty C and Taylor on a podcast. Let's forget all the other shit. Let's do that.
I actually think it might be the other way around. He might have been like 11:58 p.m. on the Saturday before his Sunday off and just gone, oh, fuck it. Fantasy football podcast. What can I do?
Fuck, what can we do?
And I think we just got to shut our hands up and went, we'll do it. He went, oh, fuck it, I'll do.
Yeah, he just threw a massive dart from the sky and it just hit you and I.
Let's roll with that. I think that'd be a good podcast image for the thumbnail this week, mate. After your Michael Jordan one last week.
Yeah, him throwing a Jackson dart from the sky.
I'm going to need a more powerful AI tool, I think, to draw that one, but I'll get on with that.
You'll make it work.
I will. Look, first steps first, mate. That SuperCoach Halfa podcast, the league through SuperCoach we've been running to give away the free stuff. We've kept 320 odd heads in there, and we're the top spot in that. We're going to give away this great custom Benefield jersey, whatever you like, any player you're choosing, and perhaps even though he's on a bye this week, JT might be the guy after all his heroics lately. But mate, I just am so blown away. We've managed to have 320 people stick with us all year in that. We've had a few of them really be super consistent. But even this week, mate, we just continue to find new faces in that top 5. And I look at their scores each week and their total scores for the season. I'm just blown away by the strength of SuperCoaches who've got in that league. It's incredible.
Mate, speaking of Jonathan Taylor, JT, thank fuck he's on bye. He gives us non-owners a bit of a reprieve. I never jumped on. For anyone that's, going, well, this guy doesn't know anything for not jumping on JT, let's just jump off the podcast. I wouldn't blame you. It's just been a bit of a tough watch, just never found the right moment. And I've always felt like I've been pretty solid at the running back position. I just never felt the need to sort of jump off the guys I've had. But my God, kudos. I've never shied away from talking, shit about my bad decisions. And that has definitely been one of them. So, thank God I get a bit of a reprieve this week. I'm sure other non-owners are in the same boat. But mate, like bring up the leaderboard, like it's honestly been astonishing. Like not only the support of this podcast, but honestly the results of the people listening to this podcast and jumping into the group. Like I'll bring up right now. I thought this might be the first time I could actually bring up the overall position in all of SuperCoach for these guys as well, because generally I've sort of just touched on where they've been in our leaderboard, but I thought if I sort of just give a shout out for where they're actually coming overall, it sort of shows how well people in our league are going.
It gives you an idea of how big the SuperCoach ocean is too, that if someone's in the top 5 here, where they sit against all SuperCoaches, I think gives you a real good indication of just how strong some of these players are. And one of the weeks I was sort of reading down what their team value was and how many total points they had a few weeks back. I was just reading the numbers and I'm just like, this is flabbergasting. These guys are super strong. So it's sort of funny too, because as you say, the difference between where you are versus where you might have been, just if you could have one or two decisions back. Remember the week where I could have taken Jonathan Taylor or Javonte, I think it was my decision. And I took Javonte and I look like a monkey. So it's just, that's the swings and roundabouts, mate.
I'm pretty sure someone reached out to me a few weeks ago and it was like Jonathan Taylor or Jameer Gibbs. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what, Jonathan Taylor has all the work, so I do like that, but I just trusted at that point still the Lions offense more, and I just really liked Gibbs at that time, and I'd just taken on Gibbs myself, and it's not like Gibbs has been bad. He's had a couple of off weeks, but he's chopped out a couple of 70s in the last few weeks, so it's not like he's been bad. It's just Jonathan Taylor's just been an absolute buzzsaw. He's the Saquon of last year, and sometimes there's just that guy that if you miss, it destroys you in SuperCoach. It's the same in any sport, NRL, AFL. If there's that one dude that a lot of people jump on and he's just a buzzsaw, it just kind of kills you for the year. It's not like that you're just generically wrong, and it doesn't mean that you're going to miss that guy the next year. It's just one of those things where you don't get on them at the right time. They can get away from you super quick.
He's got 96 more points than the highest scoring quarterback, for fuck's sake. If you miss that, you've just missed an entire, not the boat, you've missed a cruise liner. Because a lot of people are on it and you're not.
You've missed the poop cruise. Actually, you probably jumped on the poop cruise instead of the normal one.
And the Fair Star is just sailing off into the distance without you.
Shit everywhere. Shit everywhere.
So I'm imagining all five of these people that we'll mention from our leaderboard have that, because the guy who's in the lead threw up just a casual 620 last week. I didn't throw up 620, Tay. I'll give you the red hot tip.
I don't know if I'll put 620 up in the last 2 weeks.
I think that's probably fair. If I can push a 500, I feel pretty smart.
Absolutely.
But mate, the fella in first place, I've actually got the benefit of being touched up by him in a regular fantasy football league too, and I'll talk a bit about that on our regular fantasy show on Friday as well.
Oh, nice, mate. Can't wait.
He's just out there bashing up humans, just adult men. He's just defeating us all at our own game. It's fantastic. But do you want to run through this list of top five and just give us an idea of how far I am off the mark with these guys?
Absolutely, mate. In first, we have Penix in your Butka, coached by Yarpin. He's sitting in 32nd overall, so probably within striking distance of that top spot. So congratulations to you, Yarpin. Next, we have $1 Billion Saints, coached by Jason, who's sitting in 39th overall. Tied with him on the exact amount of points, obviously sitting in 39th overall still, is 95 metres, coached by Josh. I assume with that kind of score, 95 metres is the size of his knob, because he's killing it. So he's just unraveling that thing. And compared to you and I, we've just got shriveled up little turtle shells. So
it's the gap he's got on fourth place, I reckon, at the moment too. Those guys all have over 5,150 points, and they're just way off in the distance. And the next folks are under that by a bit of a distance. It's incredible. Just 95 metres is definitely the lead he's got.
Yeah, your and my score, if it was, schlong size at this point, it would be 0.01 metres. So, mate, would be...
Well, it's a usual day for me. Nothing's changed.
It must have been warm outside for that one.
Yeah.
All right, next we've got Shooters Tour. The old shout out to Happy Gilmore still. So
yeah, it's good to see Jesse still on. Yeah,
Shooters Tour.
Way to go, Jesse.
Sitting in 61st overall, and then rounding up the top five, we've got Slappers, coached by Alistair. He's sitting in 68th overall. So, again, congratulations to everyone in that top five. But as we've noticed, that people are jumping in and out, left, right, and centre of that top five. So it's super close right behind them. So, like I said, anyone apart from Matty C and I who aren't in that group, you're actually a chance of jumping into that top five.
Oh my God! And these folks, we all started with about $273 million worth of roster value. Everyone in this list now has well in excess of $350 million of team value. The highest number in is $386 million. It's just mental, just absolutely mental. And it just goes to show that, that there's such a level of strategy in it, and the difference between the money-making aspect, the $386 million is actually fifth in that list, and but all of them have generated a lot of cash, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're placed in order of who's built the most team value either. So you're saying early in the season, Tay, when I was still a bit of a novice at the idea of how to build an NFL version of this, points and cash building are both important, but you do have to remember points matter, and that is probably the epitomization of that right there, is that you don't have to have the biggest team value to be scoring the most points, and Yarpin's showing us that.
And what generally happens sometimes is if you're getting a lot of points, the money kind of comes with it anyway. It's like we look at break evens and we break down the stats a little bit too much. It's just like, hey, if you're picking the guys that are going out there and scoring the most points, obviously can depend on what they're priced at, but in general you're just going to make a lot of cash by having a strong side that is obviously scoring the most points anyway. I know that's super basic, but not not award-winning analysis at all, but it's just in the idea if you're just actually picking based off matchups and what guys you just think are going to go out there and have the best weeks. It's funny how that can actually just be as good a money-making strategy as going through the SuperCoach style and looking at break evens and stuff like that. So there's so many ways to skin a cat. It doesn't have to be all you're looking at break evens. You can just go off your gut and guys that you think are going to have good weeks constantly.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes it's just timing, right? Like now, if you try to get into Jonathan Taylor, it's going to cost you so much. You got on him when he was like 18, 19 million bucks. You're laughing, right? So it's both, right? And if you decided to stay with him, or if you decided you thought you were getting in front of jumping out of him, well, then, that all those things contribute. So it's just been a really interesting process of seeing the thought experiment play out for me, coming from the very NFL fantasy background into SuperCoach, which is much newer to me. I've only played a few seasons of Rugby League SuperCoach. So just to see people who've clearly got a really good head on both and have, also not just had the good analysis, but also we'd be a bit foolish if we didn't say it came with some luck as well. That, for those things to both align at the same time and just see how these folks are doing it, it's been really good for my brain.
The way I always look at fantasy and even SuperCoach is I see it a lot like poker. I think there's a huge element of luck, but the idea is that you try to use that 10 to 20% skill base to try and win more than you lose. It's like you sit down and play poker, even professionals are going to lose. Like they're going to lose to amateurs. It's just the way that the game is. Like it's just about finding that edge. It's about finding that 10, 20% edge over your opponents by saying, hey, if my opponent was in this situation and I was in that situation, I want to be winning 6 out of 10 times. It's all about finding that bit of an edge, because we're all going to have bad years in SuperCoach and fantasy. We're all going to have great ones and everything in between. It's just about finding that little bit of an edge to have more good ones than you do bad.
And now SuperCoach Halfa, get your edge, get faster.
I reckon that's about as well said as you can get there, and it probably leads us beautifully into some of the meat and potatoes of what we do here. Is we talk about players getting traded in and out, because that's really the crux of it all, isn't it? There are some very, very obvious top of the list for both of these for trades in and out. In the last hour or so, I just kind of went back and updated some numbers from when I first looked at it on the Wednesday. And finally, there's been a little flip at the very top, and the most traded out person at the moment, it had been Ted McMillan all week, but now it's Jackson Dart now.
Yeah, I did the same. I kind of did the screenshot from yesterday because, initially we weren't sure exactly which day we were going to record. And
exactly right.
I noticed it was Ted as well. And I went, you know what, we're an hour out from recording. I better sort of have a relook at, who are the most traded out and traded in. And yeah, it had flipped, obviously, I guess with more news around Jackson Dart, obviously 21.49 million and break even of 10. I don't know if you heard last week, Matty C, but as I've mentioned already, I'm more than happy to fall on my sword and mention when I've kind of made decisions that didn't work out. And I was a proponent for holding JJ McCarthy and not jumping over to Jackson Dart a few weeks ago. And look at the money he's made. It's been insane. 17 or so million. He's been amazing. He's also been really good in this format because you get the 12 points for a rushing touchdown over the 8 for a passing. Like, he's honestly like their lead running back as well as as the Giants quarterback. So he's had an amazing year. So everyone who jumped on him, you've done an amazing job, the money you've made. And what's actually funny, and I brought this up last week, I actually thought last week was the time to do this. You can still go Jackson Dart down to JJ McCarthy, which I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people doing, and you can actually make $12 million. And like obviously with Dart's injury now, that makes it even more viable. But I think if Dart was there and he's probably your third quarterback, I do think that's viable anyway. But obviously with his injury, a trade like that just makes so much sense. So whether it's to him or whether people are just fully nothing the position and just not wanting to have any money in their like third quarterback, I think it's a fine decision either way.
I've seen on the most popular trades too. The most popular trade at the moment has been Lamar in, Dart out. The other popular one with Dart going out has been to McCarthy. So it's both. It's either
it's up or down.
Other equity to trade up to. We say in your final lineup, you probably want to have some of that certainty that either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson will bring you, or if you can both. But if you want to free up that money to go hunting elsewhere, the move to McCarthy has been later than we thought. But it has been everything we were hoping for. He's been making money. He's been playing well. It's just that long layoff in the middle of the season where Dart filled that and made all that money for people. If you jumped, you were rewarded. But you can still get the second wave now, and people are doing that.
I think your situation matters and your roster construction with that decision. If he was your quarterback too, I fully understand going up to Lamar. But if he's your third quarterback, then I think downgrading him to make that money makes sense, because you really don't need a whole bunch of money in your third quarterback. Yes, I still like the McCarthy move than enough, because I still think quarterback's so viable that if you get a late injury or you don't have a lot of trades at the end of the year and one of your guys does go down, you really don't want to have to be using your last trade to get a quarterback in. So if you have like a McCarthy as your third quarterback, at least you've got someone to sort of chuck in straight away, and you've also made $12 million to spend elsewhere. So that if it's a third quarterback, please do that. Don't spend up on your third quarterback and run three high-end ones. Just I don't think people would be doing that, but I just want to put that out as a PSA.
Yeah. And I think, we'll have throws at the stumps on that third quarterback if it's not McCarthy. There are other folks you can have a bit of punt on, but I mean, they stuck it into that awkward price range of being north of $10 million. And mate, at that point, you're probably better sticking with someone like McCarthy, who's still on the underside by the sound of it. The second guy on that list now, that was Jackson Dart, traded out in over 700 of SuperCoach lineups. We've seen Ted McMillan from the Carolina Panthers, wide receiver, who has been traded out by almost the same, about 670 SuperCoaches that moved on from him. He's done a good job though. He's got you up to $10 million, which is he's more than doubled his cash. He was about $4.5 million when the season started. But mate, this looks like one of those ones where people are just happy to cash out and use that money to upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah, look, I don't have a problem with it. There are two avenues from him, and I think a lot of people are looking at that. I even had some questions in the mailbag on this last week, and I was a proponent of holding all these guys like Egbuka, McMillan, Odunze. I really felt like we needed to, because we aren't all the way through the buys yet. I think there are still some wide receivers that haven't gone on their buy, so I felt like it made sense to hold these guys because we need the coverage. But as we go further along and the buys are going to be less of a concern, I do like doing this. Like with a guy like Tet, I love the talent himself. Like I think he is an amazing wide receiver and he's going to have a long, great career. I do worry about his upside though on this team. Like they've got Rico Dowdle who runs the ball a lot. The offense is predicated on the run more than the pass. Bryce Young is just a complete question mark every week, and sometimes he has games where he throws for barely over 100 yards. So that's my problem, is like Tet always seems to lead the team in receiving yards, but sometimes it's for like 45 yards, and that's a concern moving forward that's just going to keep happening. So I've got no problem with people either downgrading him and sitting like someone on there like as their wide receiver 8 as either enough or just someone super low. Like what I would throw out is maybe like a Luther Burden instead of enough, like someone that has the ability to come in. And as a rookie, we all know rookies sort of break out late in their rookie years, especially when they haven't been getting high snap counts in the first half of the year. Not everyone's an Amika Egbuka or a Tet McMillan. They don't always come in and just like have an awesome role. So I wouldn't be surprised if a Luther Burden, who's a second round pick, and Ben Johnson went after him. You see DJ Moore getting under an injury cloud. So I think someone like him would be a pretty decent downgrade to then make use that money elsewhere instead of like a full-on nuff. Because if we get two injuries later in the year in our wide receiver position, we're going to want someone who's at least playing. So that would be my route I would go. Or like you've mentioned, going up to like a Rashee Rice, or if you don't have like CeeDee Lamb, I feel like it's a little bit too high to get to like Jamar Chase and Puka and Amon-Ra. But if you've got like $9 million because you've downgraded Dart down to McCarthy, then that's where I probably would use my money just to solidify a wide receiver. So yeah, I've got no problem with people trading Tet.
Yeah, it looks like that's the most popular one too, actually, Tay, is that when folks are trading out from Dart to get into McCarthy, that's giving them the money, because the most common trade at the moment for McMillan out is to go up to Puka. So that kind of looks like that's a hand-in-glove move.
Yep. Yeah, if you've got that money, it completely makes sense. You got to have Puka for the run home.
You got to. Mate, then it absolutely just bottoms out, and there is a chasm of space between the second most traded out player and the third most traded out player. You've been a strong advocate of holding this bloke. I have been too. Tyler Warren is the tight end for the Colts, still being traded out by 460-odd SuperCoaches. But, mate, he's done his job too. He's made you $6.5 million. He's worth almost $11 million now. He's on the buy, though, which I think is why this week in particular he's got people antsy. Mate, his break-even's only 22 when he returns. I still think he's a pretty solid hold.
He's a very solid hold. He's one of the tight ends you want for the run home. So if you've already got him, is it really worth, especially at that price, like you're having to upgrade $2+ million to go to some of these other guys. If you're looking at Trey McBride, you're having to go up like, what, $7 million or something?
The most common trade?
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, it's probably people with a plethora of money from doing this Dart to McCarthy thing, but I would rather be upgrading
it's like really the avenue,
a wide receiver. Yeah, look, to be honest, there are circumstances that I understand it. Like if you're super up there in overall and you're like sitting in the top 10 or something, I understand the worry of having a buy and having to like rely on your third tight end. And maybe that situation,
your third tight end might be Hawk.
I could understand not wanting to cop like a 4 or even like a 2 or something in your tight end position when you're super up there. If you're a head-to-head player and not overall, generally we try and we aim this podcast to overall players, but if you're a head-to-head player, do not trade. Like there's no reason. If you have to cop a loss this week just because from one player, just cop it. Like it's silly. Like there is no reason to get rid of Warren. He is going to be one of the better tight ends for the run home. You just saw like as soon as the Colts got in any kind of close game, they just peppered him with targets. He is so trusted in that offense. He is their best pass catcher, and they actually have some tougher games. I know they've got a Chiefs game coming up after their bye. They're the type of games that Warren is going to eat in because they are going to need him. They aren't going to blow the barn doors off the other team, and they are going to need to play all 4 quarters. That's when you're going to see the best out of Tyler Warren. So I personally have not even thought about trading him. I know Trey McBride's great. I just don't think it's worth $6 million to go from Warren to him. I still think Brock Bowers is great moving forward. I know he had that dud against Denver, but he's got Dallas this week. It's just a completely different defense that he's facing. Yeah. Maybe over to him because it's only costing you $2 million. I don't mind that, but in general, as a blanket statement, I'm saying do not trade Tyler Warren. He is going to be too good on the run home.
Oh, mate, and I just did a list of all the tight ends who scored more SuperCoach points than Tyler Warren this year. Are you ready for this whole list? Trey McBride. That is the whole list. And I mean, you look at who has the opportunity to do the same and to try and outrun him in terms of points on the way home. The only players who are scoring more in an average per start are Jake Ferguson and Brock Bowers. They're both in that $13 and $14 million range. So price-wise, it's almost a sideways move. I just don't understand getting rid of him when he's been so good.
It's just like people saw even last week, there was a couple of off games, but it was because they were boat racing their opponents. And they have like I've already mentioned, they've got better opponents coming up. And the fact is, it's the tight end position. It's the tight end position. It's not a guarantee. Like even the top guys aren't a guarantee. We just saw it with Brock Bowers. Like if you're moving Tyler Warren this week and it's to Bowers or even a McBride probably less so. He has less duds than anyone else. But at the same time, like tight ends can just be schemed out. Like it's just the nature of the position. Like do not use a trade on a guy you know is a bona fide star in Tyler Warren just to get another guy that can be as iffy as anyone. So Yeah, I don't know. I don't personally understand it. Warren is not leaving my team. He is there until I am forced out with injury.
Yeah, until further notice. And I think that's the right call. Mate, the next tight end is the exact opposite of this. The fourth guy on the list is traded out in 454 SuperCoaches rosters is Darren Waller. And for me, this is kind of one of those ones where it's like, the only reason I think anyone's holding on to him through this is because he's not costing them anything to hold if they've got other areas of urgency. But it still surprised me there was this many folks hanging on to Darren Waller this long after he'd gone on season-ending IR.
Yeah, I was a proponent of, like, say, downgrading using, like, maybe $3 million, like, elsewhere and just, like, downgrading him to Musgrave or something, who's now got the tight end role with the Kraft injury, just because I just didn't see the point of holding that $6 million. I understood it too, though, like you just mentioned, because it's not a huge amount of money either. And using a trade, you know, people might be low on trades. It wasn't really hurting them. It wasn't a concern. And I guess there is technically the upside of him coming back later and then being okay. But I needed like 0.5 of a mil to make a different trade. So I actually moved him to Colston Loveland last week because I really believe that guys like him and Burden are going to be even more involved for the Bears moving forward with the draft capital Ben Johnson used on them. So I moved to him. I wasn't starting Loveland. It was just still my bench, but he had a very low break even and I needed that to facilitate another trade. So that made sense for me personally. But I guess with people not forced to use a trade, I understand it. I don't know if people are now still going down to Musgrave. I don't know if they're because people might have Waller and Warren and they're using their money to upgrade maybe Waller up to like one of these better tight ends so they're not forced into taking, you know, the nothing score from Warren this week. My biggest concern with that is then you've got so much money in your tight end position and you're going to have three decent ones at next week, and which one are you going to bench? So I wouldn't be doing that either. The only way I'm trading Waller is if I'm trading him down and using that money elsewhere, because you don't need three stud tight ends moving forward.
No, not now when so few have a buy to come. That's the bit that kind of bothers me. It's like, what's the point if you're pretty much through everything now? I think your tight end, you should be starting to look at final roster tight ends, and that should be enough. That should just be enough in your spot there. And you can go and find a basket of nothing anywhere who's got a teeny bit of upside. Like, as you say, Musgrave, he might have been on the field for, 4 targets all year, and now he's going to be the beneficiary of the Tucker Kraft injury, not to Tucker Kraft levels, but he's going to come out of every game with a couple of points, and he'll just probably simmer away and earn you a few bucks sitting in enough spot, but he'll never hurt you, and he gives you that opportunity to free up that capital and put it elsewhere. It seems crazy to me that you would be hanging on to Waller if you could just do that.
Yep, no, I agree.
We've got a couple more on this list now, and this one has hurt me because I've been with him all year. I spent up early on Justin Jefferson, and I've just stayed in the Flames because I figure the day will come when he will start to turn it around. He really hasn't, and people have lost their patience. 370 SuperCoaches have moved out of him because he's lost them $5 million from opening day, and he's currently at $13.5 million, which is an odd sort of number to be hanging on to. But his break even's 35 and his projection is 24. I kind of still feel like, while now McCarthy's there, it's as good a hold as any.
Yeah, it's the old sunk costs fallacy, right? It's like, well, I've held him for this long. It's kind of like me with Saquon. I've taken just an absolute bath on him money-wise this year, but I just look at him and I go, each time when he's lower in money, it's like, how do I possibly sell out of this guy at such a sunk cost? And it's kind of similar with Jefferson. I also feel like, obviously, the KOC offense, I've brought it up so many times, is generally good for the offense and good for the quarterback. I have to believe that McCarthy only gets stronger as he gets more time playing. So I do believe that you've seen the worst of Jefferson. Obviously, you had Carson Wentz, the corpse of Carson Wentz, there for a while, which didn't help. And then McCarthy's McCarthy being a rookie, and I did bring this up earlier, that my concerns for Jefferson is that rookies generally don't pass for a lot of yards and they don't have a lot of touchdowns. So that was going to cap his upside in general. But they do get some better matchups. I just think, like, he still had 12 targets last week. If I've got Jefferson and he's down to 13 million, I'm just holding. I know there's probably some people maybe trading into Rashee Rice off the bye and, some other guys around that range. I get it. But at this point, I do believe the upside's still good, very, very high for Jefferson because he's still a top-level talent at the wide receiver position. So at that price, I would be holding. But I will say I understand people's mindset of being frustrated. It just feels like it's still a little bit sideways to move into guys for even more money when Jefferson still has that ceiling.
Yeah, I think if someone told me at the start of the year, by week 10, people would be moving out of Justin Jefferson for Rashee Rice, then I would have committed them to a loony bin. Yeah. It's the world we're in now, and I've got to understand that that's the reality of it, is that Justin Jefferson is just he's just hemorrhaged cash. But I am too stubborn, Tay, and you will have to pry him out of my dead, lifeless fingers. That's my stance on Justin Jefferson, and I kind of feel like it's okay to be unable to evolve. I'm just going to stick with him. And if it continues to cost me cash, it's going to be my own stupid fault. But I just believe that if you're going to get 12 targets a game from a guy who's only improving, that's going to continue to see more improvement from Justin Jefferson into point scoring. Because to me, it's a probability thing.
Yeah, mate. I haven't had Jefferson all year, but like I just mentioned, I've been exactly the same as Saquon. He's lost too much money, and I just still believe better days are ahead. But again, that's probably one of the things that sunk me this year into a not amazing rank. So, we're built from the same ilk, mate.
Yeah, you and I, mate. I'll tell you what, if he hasn't turned this around, he's off my Christmas card list. I tell you, and he'll feel it. Not getting a Christmas card from Matty C. He'll feel it.
Big bucket of shit.
I'm probably one of the only people who still sends Christmas cards. So, mate, this one's a no-brainer. Tucker Kraft completely ruined every part of his lower body, and he's gone for the rest of the year. He's going to free up $14 million in cash to get rid of him. So 340 SuperCoaches who hadn't moved on him last week have now. He did a good job for you, though. Earned you $4.4 million. Great chance to free up some cash, take enough at the tight end and go and boost his other position.
Yeah, mate, it's honestly, you can group the next two in, honestly, Kraft and Hunter. They both no-brainer sells. Kraft, obviously making all that money and sitting in basically keeper territory at 14, $14.34 million. It's such a no-brainer because he's done you a great job, and you can move over to some of these stud tight ends, and that's actually a super easy decision. So yeah, he probably should have been sold last week, but for people who didn't jump on, and sell him last week, obviously people probably have Warren and they're wanting to move over to someone else and get some coverage. So yeah, that's an absolute no-brainer. And Travis Hunter, I brought him up that I never had him, but I did make a sort of realization that I do believe things were changing for him right before he obviously had the injury. He led the team in receiving yards and targets and everything in that game overseas before he caught the injury. So I do believe things were looking more positive for him, and I probably would have started to take a look at him. But, obviously now he's already been mentioned he's had the season-ending surgery. So, trade him. It's probably a bit too far to trade him up, so he might be someone that you nuff out and you just take $3 million.
Yeah, I mean, at 6.8, he probably just doesn't command a lot of... he's just too far away to trade up to something really valuable, and you certainly don't want to trade up to a mid-ranger at this point in the year because you start to think about how few trades you got left and what your final lineup's going to look like. So, yeah, to me, felt like it was a real no-brainer. I mean, he finally goes and throws up that 100-yard game in London, and now he's got this minus 10 break-even that's just going to carry over next year, and we'll be starting at zeros again. It's just kind of unfortunate, isn't it?
Yep. And honestly, that's a good just PSA to everyone. Don't trade for mid-rangers at the end. At this point, we've got too many guns. And I'll touch on that in a question in the mailbag. But at this point, it honestly should be trading for guns and honestly enough or two. That's honestly what we should be using it. We should be trying to think what you mentioned about our final sides right now.
That's all I've been thinking about the last 2 weeks, Tay. I was listening to your solo last week. I listened to it 3 times just to make sure I had my brain on straight. So there you go. I'm always doing my homework.
That's good. That was the only 3 listens to the podcast. So thank you.
There you go. Well, one of them was to make sure my mum got her line up right. So.
And funnily enough, your mum's betting both of us. So well done.
I know. Yeah. I like the Irish, mate. Last one on this list, though, Oronde Gadsden. He's just kind of come up out of nowhere as what was originally about the 15th tight end on this roster at the LA Chargers to start the year. He's now kind of last man standing. But, mate, he got traded out of 235 lineups this week. he's done some good work. He's gone and just made you almost $8 million. But what do you think's the driver to move him out now?
Yeah, he did pick up the injury. There was concern it was a bad one. They said he was going for an MRI from the knee. It was a contact injury, so obviously any knee injury isn't good, but obviously it being contact and non-contact, it makes a huge difference. Turned out it was like a bruised quad or something, so it's not anything of super concern. There is a chance he doesn't play this week, but I did see an update today that he was at practice. So
I imagine Thursday.
I imagine he's probably going to play. So for anyone that was trading him out because of that concern, don't have concern. He looks like he's going to be fine. And I guess for this week specifically, for a lot of us with Tyler Warren, I probably wouldn't be trading this guy because I don't like his break evens, 39. So yes, there's a chance he loses a little bit of cash, but there's also a chance in this Chargers offense that he just has another massive game. It's frustrating because it seems to go from one player to another. Keenan Allen goes missing one game, Quentin Johnson goes missing the next, and it's kind of hard to feed all four of their main pass catchers. But again, because we are all having like a Tyler Warren bye week, I imagine that you're going to need Gadsden in a week like this, and I don't think it's worth a trade to move him.
Certainly won't move him Warren to Gadsden.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's not really worth moving Gadsden to a different tight end when you can save the trade and have coverage for Warren already. So I don't really understand moving him because if he's one of your higher end tight ends, then you need him already. You need to be trading someone different to cover Warren. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I assume it's a lot of people thinking that he got injured that he needed. And yes, he is it also probably is just people who play the SuperCoach style game where they look at a higher break even and just go, he's made my money, I have to move on. But I guess with our trades dwindling and the situation with Warren that I've brought up so many times, but it's obviously very important this week, I just don't think it's a trade that needs to be done right now.
I've been a big proponent of being careful about your trades all year, and after the few I did this week, I'm down to 7 from this week on, but I'm really happy with my lineup now. I'm starting to look at my roster thinking I've really only got a few guys to move out to nuffs and a few spots I want to pump up, and then I'm pretty happy with my roster the whole way. As long as no one gets bloody hurt, I should be all right. And I kind of feel like this is the part of the year we should be doing that. So the Oronde Gadsden one, to me, it's just got to be the knee-jerk of, he got hurt, he's iffy, don't know if he's going to play or not, looked bad. He's going to play, so look, if this is an opportunity for folks to go and undo that trade, then there may still be time for him to do that, knowing that we're coming out on Thursday this week instead of on the Friday. We're also recording on Thursday, so it's got slightly more updated information that we might have had some weeks too.
Matty C, we normally do the top 8 of each section. I just added in one really quickly. I just wanted to touch on super fast because, again, I've used the word PSA as well, the acronym.
Do it. Get it in there.
RJ Harvey's ninth highest sold, and I just want to put it out there that J.K. Dobbins has gone to get a second opinion on that ankle/foot injury. They've even they're saying they don't think he'll go to IR, but the fact they've even mentioned IR means he could miss 1 to 3 weeks. He doesn't look like he's healthy. Even in the best case scenario, I'm not sold that he's fully healthy even if he plays, which means there could be even more snaps for RJ Harvey. So, yes, I understand that people are probably getting rid of him similar to Gadsden, where they're looking at it and going, he had a massive week 2 weeks ago. That role comes out of his rolling average and he's now got a break even sitting in the mid-30s. This is the time to sell. But I think his role could be getting higher, whether Dobbins plays or not. And then if Dobbins misses, you've just got RJ Harvey for this Denver offense with a great offensive line as the lead back. So don't use him because this could actually be the moment he turns into what you've always wanted.
That's really timely too, because at the places that I've seen for J.K. Dobbins today, they're also looking at he's either got a very suppressed projection in week-on-week fantasy or already has a 0 next to him because the uncertainty is too high. So I think that's probably really wise if you get the opportunity to keep RJ Harvey because it's both, right? He's low money and he'll probably gain you money and he'll also probably score you points, and you love someone who can do both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand too, people will probably just had him on the bench and they're thinking about their final sides, but maybe just give it a little bit to see what he looks like. I'm sure we have other guys we can downgrade or something, or like, I just don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of us have the main running backs in that like high, middle to high already. I don't know if we need to be upgrading him, and then if we're downgrading him, it's just, you know, you're going to be worried about your depth and stuff like that. And I just think there are other positions you can do that. So I would just hold off at least for now to see what it looks like of RJ Harvey if Dobbins is either hampered or not there.
Yeah. Look, I think that's all very wise, and a bonus sneaky ninth in there. How about that? Yep. You don't get that every week.
Love a sneaky ninth.
Let's blow the whistle and move into the guys who were trading in this week, Tay. It is a real different looking list from the folks we had traded out, because these guys almost all come with numbers north of 15 million bucks in value. So this is people who are trading up, doing exactly what you're hoping that they'd be doing, looking at their final lineup and trying to premiumize their rostered starting positions. The top guy in that list, last time we had a bit of a sticky beak, was a guy named Trey McBride. How funny. He's only come up a lot in the way we've been talking about how the tight end trade outs have been going. Got to imagine you're not surprised by this, mate.
Like I said, I think there's a very niche situation where you should be trading for McBride, because I'm struggling to find the situation in my head that I think it makes sense. Like, it's like if you're in the top 10 or 20 and you're really trying to crack into that top and you're worried about copying a really bad score from your tight end position, I believe that that's okay. I don't like the Warren trade to him. I don't also like people upgrading a lower price tight end as a third tight end to him, because I just think it's too much money in your tight end spot. I just don't know who else I would be moving up to him. Like, if you went for Bowers last week or 2 weeks ago, like, you've got to hold him.
Yeah.
Like I just can't see who. Like, if someone was still holding Kraft and they'd been running a lower end tight end too, then yes, I understand that one. Like I said with Gadsden, do I believe Trey McBride's a far better player moving forward than Gadsden? Yes. So look, maybe I could understand that. But then who's your tight end too? Like, I feel like we're kind of all struggling a bit with tight ends this week because of Warren. And I just don't know why, like, we need to be moving it to Trey McBride. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit with, like, who it is I'm moving to him. Over 17 million is just so much for a tight end. Like, I get why people want him in their final team, and that's why we're trading for that now. But I don't know. I just think with our situations at tight end, I just don't see the person that makes the most sense to move outside of someone holding Kraft, and maybe to a lesser extent a Gadsden, because even if he plays with this bruised quad or whatever, maybe he's hampered and you can go up 5 million and just lock in Trey McBride. But outside of that, I just think I'm holding my guys at tight end for now.
Yeah, and I mean, the most popular trades, as we were talking about before, for where you see McBride coming in. Yeah, we talked about how Warren out is the one you don't want to do. It's the most popular, though. McCarthy out because you're using the money he's made you already to try and help premiumize somewhere else. I understand that one to a degree. But the Kraft out, to me, seems to be the one that would be the most sense immediately, would just have the least questions about it, since Kraft is definitely dead. And he's, you're shifting out $14 million and bringing in something that's in the $17 million range. So it's not a huge jump.
Yeah, no, completely understand the Kraft one, and then obviously to a lesser degree the Gadsden. I'm just struggling, like I said, with, like, if you've already got other premium guys in that position, which I assume you do, and then they're the only guys you could really, like, fathomably move up to him. Unless there's someone that's just been rocking, like, a real mid-range group at tight end and they're just looking for that premium guy, then I've got no issue with you, like, spending up the 8 or 9 million to go from, like, an $8 million tight end that's just doing nothing up to him or something. Like, that kind of makes sense. But if you've got these Kittles and Bowers and your Warrens, who I don't believe you should be selling, like, I just feel like you should stay the course with these guys, because I know everyone's looking at the stats and the data so far. I don't personally see McBride as super better than these guys, so I just don't see the point of spending that extra money up to 17 mil to get McBride over these guys. So that's just my personal opinion. But look, my personal opinion hasn't been super right about everything in SuperCoach this year. It's just, it's me using my NFL fantasy knowledge from past years to say that using trades like this in tight end, I just don't think is worth it, especially when you've already got some of the top tier guys anyway.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that all makes sense. And I mean, it's kind of funny then because you've got this massive gulf from where McBride is easily the most traded in player. The next most traded in player is Travion Henderson, who's been really trendy lately. Mate, I made the move into him quite a while ago, and this is one where I actually feel kind of clever because he's made the best part of $4 million, and he's break even now at the moment since they finally decided to hand him the ball. I don't know what he's done, but Mike Vrabel, it's this thing where he just doesn't give the rookie the ball ever. And all of a sudden, he's given him the ball just a handful of times. He's fucking hit it out of the park. So now he's like, well, I'll finally give you the ball a bit. And it's about damn time. He's projected for 19, but his break even is negative 666. 32. His break even is negative 7. It's a massive number. Like, I definitely understand why he is someone people are trading in with vigor right now. Over 500 super coaches have made that move.
Well, Matty, see, there's been an episode of me talking down myself and bringing up some of the things I've gotten wrong.
Come on.
This one was probably one I got right. I mentioned for a while that I didn't understand why people were getting rid of Henderson 3 or 4 weeks ago, because to me it wasn't about his talent. It was just about his situation and playing behind Ramondre and, like you said, Mike Vrabel being this sort of old school coach where you've got to earn it. And I just didn't understand why you would need to move Henderson off your running back bench when you're not playing him anyway. And so I've held him the entire year. I started with him and I never got out of him. So I'm happy that's a trade I can save. For people that weren't on him, I completely understand moving down to him. The minus 32, he's also guaranteed to start this week against the really bad rushing defense of the Jets. They also traded their best defensive lineman, who basically is good at stopping the rush, in Quinnen Williams. So he's not there. So they're going to get sort of torched on the ground. And you've got obviously Ramondre not playing. So Henderson's guaranteed to be the lead back. So yeah, I think he's in for another very good week. And that minus 32 break even, I know we've talked about trying to trade for only keepers and sort of nuffs, but I think this is a perfect downgrade opportunity to him. And then, look, he's going to make money. Yes, if he sits on your bench. If we don't see Ramondre for a while, he's the kind of guy on matchups you could actually play. Like, I really, really like this. And, for people that are like, you know what, I'm sick of Barkley, or I'm sick of people, and I'm not even having to start them, because running back's a funny situation, Matty. Say, like, I had to basically choose between starting like Derrick Henry, Gibbs, CMC, Barkley, and someone else signed, missing Bijan. So I'm like, I had to sit one of them already. So I'm like, if you're looking at your final team, I actually kind of don't mind trading some of these like running backs in that 15 mil range down to like a Travion Henderson, because they're going to be on your bench anyway, and using that money elsewhere. So yeah, I actually do like the trade for Henderson. Yeah.
We've also, I think you're pretty strident on why Henderson wouldn't just be somebody you had in your starting line up as a bench running back early anyway, knowing that he's bottom dollar, being a rookie with no stats, and that he's only got the potential to earn you, and that there's a likelihood, knowing that Stevenson was the only head in front of him, that he would probably get that opportunity. It's finally happened. I mean, it's taken a long time to happen, but this is kind of one of those things where it eventually came off, and now if people are buying into it, and they're sort of $4 million in a hole compared to where the folks who started off with him are. But sometimes better late than never.
And it saves you a trade. It saves you like a trade now that means a lot to us. So that means a lot. Look, it was a long con. Like, it was a long situation.
Yeah, we played the long game.
Played the long game, definitely.
In 2 weeks when McCaffrey's on bye, though, do you think I'm going to be starting him? Oh, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll feel good about it.
And I think there'll be more confidence even with Ramondre back that Henderson's proven himself. So, look, we never know exactly.
I wouldn't trust Ramondre to hold the water bottles at the moment. Exactly. He'll drop them too. Jesus Christ.
I think that
how expensive is Gatorade these days?
Henderson is the future of this team. I know they paid Ramondre, but they can get out of that in like either the next year or the year after. So Henderson's definitely the future of this team. They spent a high draft capital pick on him. So I think as the year goes on, you probably would see more of him, even with Ramondre in the team.
Yeah, I think Ramondre will find himself on special teams pretty quickly. There then is another running back in this sort of part of the world who's been traded in. All of a sudden, Devon Achane has been pretty much the entire Miami offense. And the Miami offense has started to take a little bit of shape now, and it's not all him. You're seeing guys like Waddle take a little bit of the slack off, but it just gives Achane more room to play. He's now up to $19.5 million after starting the year at $17.5 million. So he's taken a long time, but he's finally earned you some money. His break even's only 7 this week. He's projected 48 because that offense is starting to look good. I get why people are bringing him in.
Yeah, he's great. Every week it seems like even if Miami's struggling, he still seems to get some kind of work done. He's so fast, and the good thing about him is he's matchup proof. Like, because he's so good in the passing game. Yeah. If they're winning, they lean on him. If they're losing, they pass to him. He's a very, very good player. And yeah, look, I've got no problems with people bringing him in. I guess my only thing is with running back, I feel like we've all kind of built up running back pretty well. Like I just mentioned, like the start decisions I've already got at running back. I just wonder who we're moving him from. Yep. You know, like I guess like people have gotten over Barkley and they may be happy to spend that $5 million or so, but it won't be a move I make because I just, like I've mentioned, it's more of a team specific thing for me with running back where it's like I've already got so much money committed there, and it's like I don't have an obvious person to move to him. I would also have to like spend up to get to him at $19 or so million. I've obviously mentioned that I miss Jonathan Taylor too, so Jonathan Taylor and ATN are just going to be these guys that I'm just going to have to roll without, and I'm just going to have to go with the big. I still have big names at running back. I just don't see the point of spending money to move over to these guys that, you know, before the season we thought were all kind of, you could chuck a blanket over them. So
100%.
I just think, like, look, if there's a 40% chance that the guys I have outscore Achane, then I'll take that because I don't want to spend that extra $4 million to go up to him.
Oh, yeah, and to me this is about flavour, right? Do you like Achane or do you like James Cook? Do you like Achane? Do you like Bijan? Like, they're all in that same. You could throw a $1.5 million blanket over them. Like, they're really close. And to me, it's just, you know, there's just enough people who've seen Devon Achane throw up some good numbers. He's got a low break even. His projection's still nice and high. So I understand why maybe that's the move, where 2 weeks ago it probably wasn't Achane, it probably was one of these other guys. So I also understand there's a little element of what have you done for me lately as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mate, what have you done for me lately? Lamar Jackson he's lost a lot of money lately. That's the problem I've got with him. But I think we all understand that things are trending upwards for Baltimore. All of a sudden, they've won a few in a row, and we've got 400 odd SuperCoaches moving him in at $25 million. We were all planning that if you did move out of him when he was injured and then through that bye period, that you would probably want to leave a door to get back to him. Looks like a lot of people have done that planning, mate.
Yeah, and I did a bit of a stats breakdown on him last week on my solo pod and sort of broke down the matchups between him, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. And when I did that, I touched on Lamar and I said he's got the best run home matchup-wise, but his next two matchups aren't actually good. He had a middle of the road. I sort of broke it down to great matchups, middling matchups, and terrible ones. And what I sort of looked at was he had the most great matchups, but his next two, including the Vikings last week, were middling matchups. So I thought with his huge break even, I think it was 77 or something, it made sense to wait. I've got no problem with people jumping on him now. He's lost that $2 million already. And then he's got a 54 break even, which a guy like him can still hit. And what I will say, even though the Browns, especially at home, they are a great defense, but they are amazing against the run. So I do wonder if this is the kind of game where this resurgent Ravens team need to pass. So it might not actually be that bad a matchup for the quarterback because it's maybe one that Derrick Henry might struggle in, and so you're not going to lose those touchdown opportunities. So I've got no problem with people jumping to him now. I thought about it because I've got Daniel Jones still, and he's on bye, and I wondered whether it made sense to spend that money up to him now. But I'm probably just because, like you, I'm sort of starting to get low on trades. I've got JJ McCarthy on my bench. I like his matchup against the Bears this week. So I'm just going to take that shot on McCarthy as my second quarterback this week and just watch Lamar for one more week before he gets those ridiculous matchups, because at worst, Lamar has a very good game and probably returns value or maybe goes up a tiny bit at that break even of 54. So I'm happy to wait again and just sort of see how Lamar looks, because he's already he doesn't look 100% healthy. I will say that. I don't know if he's going to rush as much as we've seen in the past. And I think even though they need to keep winning, I think they realise that their defense is better and they could probably ease Lamar in and still win games. So I'm just taking a bit of a cautious approach with that. But honestly, this is a week-to-week thing with me where it's like if I see any glimpse of Lamar being the normal Lamar straight away in this week, he's in my team next week.
Yeah. And I've sort of taken the same approach. I've got one of those like $20 million quarterbacks in as my flex at the moment and running Josh Allen as my quarterback. So, I've got McCarthy sitting there as my third. And this is the week where I just watch to see what happens with Lamar because, I mean, he should beat that break even or get around enough to it, right? 46 is his projection. So, and you like to think with a pretty bad secondary that he should do all right passing the ball. And we know that from the first time they met that Derrick Henry was held to like 10 yards from 11 carries against the Browns the first time. It was horrendous. So they may not want to persist with that as long. And it might also mean if pockets are breaking down, Lamar may just be forced to run as well. I think there's some reasons to be positive about Lamar Jackson. And then, that it's not so desperate this week. It probably will be more of a next week move. And for me, that move is going to be about $5 million probably. So it's not the world's biggest leap, but I can see why some people are doing it now. They've left themselves that door. We talked about leaving yourself that door. Good to see a few people are doing that and getting to that. This is that, a final lineup quarterback move, and it's good to see.
Yeah, it's always been my play. It's like I'm moving Daniel Jones to him. It's for the year. They have 2 games against the Bengals in their last 4 or 5 games, which is just the perfect matchup. Like he's got so many amazing matchups moving forward. And honestly, with Lamar, it's like sometimes it doesn't even matter. He kind of dominates even bad matchups. So the fact he's got good ones, like that could be anything for him on the run home. And the fact that they do kind of got to keep winning games, it's not like they have this amazing record they can lean on. He's going to be there and prominent. So I'm
they're playing playoffs now. The Ravens have started their playoffs 3 weeks ago. That's the reality of their NFL life. And that is good for fantasy football because it means they can't rest on their laurels at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We love that. Mate, Rashee Rice is in a similar position in a way because the Chiefs somehow are outside the playoffs if the season stopped now. This is 10 weeks into the season and the Jags hold the tiebreaker over the Chiefs in NFL world from that amazing Monday Night Football double trip over, score a touchdown Trevor Lawrence play. And that's what's the difference between if the world got hit by an asteroid now and the playoffs had to start versus the Chiefs being in or not. But Rashee Rice has gotten back from all the trouble he had at the start of the year. He's been playing quite well. He's earned himself an extra $1 million or so on his opening price, and he's at $17.8 million now. His break-even is really attractive, right? I've got to imagine this is one of the reasons why you don't feel bad about moving him in now if he's going to be one of your final lineup decisions as well, right?
Yeah, he's definitely in the upper echelon of wide receiver. So a lot of people looking at their final team, I understand bringing him in. Like I said, 17.82 isn't fully breaking the bank compared to some of the other guys. Breaking even of 22, it probably is the moment. I don't love the matchup this week, but it's funny how he seems to just go fine in not so great matchups anyway. Look, there are some games moving forward for the Chiefs, and this was my worry I even brought up last week with Patrick Mahomes, is not only do they have bad matchups for wide receiver and quarterback, they're not amazing offenses on the other side. So there's some games coming up where my concern is they don't have to pass a whole bunch, but at the same time, they don't really have an amazing running game. So it's like everything has to kind of come through Mahomes on the ground or in the passing game anyway. So look, I've kind of given you good and bad there, but I just think in general, Rice is just so trusted by Mahomes. There seems to be a lot less Xavier Worthy than we probably would have liked. So I just think since Rashee Rice has come back, he's just looked amazing. He's had that extra time to heal after his injury from last year. I just think if you're thinking about your final team, he's a must-get at the moment. So, yeah, I've got no problem with people bringing him in.
Yeah, I think his price is only going to continue to rise too because that Chiefs team are essentially playing playoff football now too because they don't want to be in a position where they find themselves a wild card team either. They really need to win that division. There's such an enormous advantage for them playing at home in the NFL playoffs that's going to be their finish line, is trying to make sure they win that division and that they're not one of these teams who are a wild card team playing away from home in the first week of the playoffs. That's going to matter to Rashee Rice's fantasy value.
Can I just say, like, the only reason I sort of touched on those matchups and, like, you know, not needing a whole bunch of offense is I do think it's going to cap his ceiling a little bit. Like, get him in just because it's like one of these situations where you're just like guaranteed 25 to 45 every single week. It's like, you know, especially if you're near the top, you're just going to want that consistently. I will say that, like, I don't know if I see, unless it's a super efficient, he gets every single red zone catch and he has like 50 yards, 5 catches, but it's for 3 touchdowns. I could maybe understand that, but I do think there's going to be some games where he's fine, but he's only around that 25 sort of mark, because I just think there's games where the Chiefs are going to sort of be able to boat race the other team, and then that other team's not putting scoreboard pressure on them, and there might be less passing opportunities for Rashee Rice, or just the need to. So just keep an eye on that. It's like I said, it's the same thing I brought up with Patrick Mahomes, and it's why I'm convinced that I would rather have Allen, even after his bad game last week, and Lamar for the run home more so than Mahomes. And it's obviously based off the last 4 or so years. I'm not just trying to base it off half a year when Mahomes has been good. So, yeah, I just wanted to give that caveat, because I'm not saying he's a bad trade in. I just think there is an upside, I guess a ceiling to his upside with some of these matchups coming up.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, some of those matchups teams like the Raiders, the Titans, like there's some really generous ones in there. So definitely get there. There may be, if he doesn't get the points early, they're just not coming in the second half. But look, just in terms of a time to get on him, when he's still at 17 million, and I mean, there's definitely guys around who are in that price range who probably don't offer you the opportunity to grow the same way that Rashee Rice immediately does with his low break even. I definitely understand why people are doing that, and if they feel like they've got the trades to then firm that up even further if they're worried about that later on. Drake London kind of falls into the same basket in a lot of ways too, because he all of a sudden had this massive game over in London. In Germany. He was in Berlin. Goes and throws up a 3-touchdown game. He scored, 90 points or something in standard fantasy? It was amazing.
Drake Berlin instead of Drake London. Shout out.
I mean, unbelievable.
He came up on the traded in last week. I just, like, with my sort of wide receiver situation, I've seen London and the Atlanta Falcons in general be so hot and cold that I just thought he wasn't the guy that I thought I was going to want to run home with. So I just didn't see. I liked the break even. Like, obviously it's going to be good for 2 weeks because he had the huge week 2 weeks ago. So I had no issue with people bringing him in. It just wasn't my flavour for my team. But people that have done it, well done. Like, he's had another good game this week. He gets a home game this week. He probably could be the one that I missed, that he finishes the season well. And people might actually overlook him because of what I said. So he might actually be on that, like, potty sort of side of things where you could actually use him as a way to go up the ranks because other people don't have him. So, yeah, I've got no problem with people having him, and well done to anyone that did. Just remember that as every time you think that you've worked out the Atlanta Falcons, they completely ask fuck you the next time. Like, it is unbelievable.
Who they are. It's baked into the identity in ATL. Currently, though, at 19 million, he's got a -4 break even. Projection of, I think the projection's a little sky high to me. I know they're playing the Panthers, but 59 does seem a little unrealistic. I imagine that number may wind up being somewhere in the high 20s to the 30s, but even then, I wouldn't be disappointed by it with that -4 break even. You know, it's going to make you some cash. And if you're in a position where you've got trades to do so, you may want to firm that up. I think that's why he and Rashee Rice are the same, is that they're going to have their moments, and you just sort of got to pick your moment or stay in the flames. And they're the only 2 options with them. And if you do then want to make a move where it's London out to somebody like Nakua later, if you haven't made that move, I'd understand that too. Oh, Nakua's next on the list. 270 SuperCoaches have moved him in. He's in the same sort of span of cash at 18.2 million. Over the course of the season, he has remained pretty static, but his break-even at the moment is 31, projection for 36. And, mate, he just looks like he's straight back into the gobble-up-the-volume job that he's pretty much always had. And if he gets you a touchdown, it's gravy.
He's the easiest NFL fantasy player to talk about because you just know exactly what you're getting out of him, like, consistently week to week. It's this. You could honestly go back to my preseason chat about him. He's just doing exactly what I and probably a lot of people said. He's just guaranteed to have 8 catches and anywhere between 80 to 110 yards. He is the epitome. Like we talk about NRL Supercoach with base stats. He is the closest thing to a base stat wide receiver in the NFL. Like he's not always going to be the red zone threat. Like one of my best takes in the preseason was that I thought Devontae Adams was going to lead the league in touchdowns, and he's on pace for like 16 or 17 at the moment. Like they basically use Devontae Adams like a goal line back. Like they give him all these like 2-yard, outs, and because his route running is so crisp.
He's so smart.
It's I can't remember what the term is, but it's like trying to make someone miss in a phone box. It's like it's like you're so good at route running that you only have this tiny little space, which is normally what happens in the red zone and 2 yards out, that you don't have like a lot of lead time to try and make someone miss or get, build up speed.
Yeah, because it's small.
Because Devontae Adams is such a great route runner, he gets himself open for Stafford all the time, even from like the 2-yard line. So you even saw it of Rodgers back in the day all the time. So, yeah, look, I only bring that up because sometimes it caps Nakua's upside because he's not a huge touchdown threat. But, like, I'm not surprised that he's stayed around the same price, if not slightly higher all year, because he's just so goddamn consistent. You have to have him because he gets the same score every single week until he randomly gets a touchdown and he's blown out. So it's like, how could you not have a guy like that? Like, you have to have him.
Got to have him. And I feel like that's can be said for very few people at the wide receiver position outside of maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba this year. Yep. Everyone else has got their sunshine and their warts, but Nakua tends not to have warts, and Smith and Jigba tends not to have warts, and they're about the only two, I think. So we're going to see them a lot in people's final lineups, I think.
The only thing you've got to handle with Nakua is he goes out injured every single game because he's just an absolute man and he just tries to catch everything. Yeah. And he ends up getting like half injured every single game. Like end up in the blue tent, he goes down the bloody back to his locker room like nearly every single game,
stapling his body parts back on. Yeah,
it's like every single time it's just from like getting hit really hard or something, or just landing super bad.
He's fearless.
And then he just always seems to come back. It's like Jalen Waddle's the same in a way. Both of them, they seem to just get injured a lot in game, but they often seem to come back. So, yeah, you've just got to sort of take that concern where, like, the amount of different group chats I see every single week where it's like, oh, no, Puka's in the blue tent or Puka's injured. And then all of a sudden I'm like, how did Puka just get a 42-yard catch when everyone was telling me he was injured? Like, it's amazing how often that happens.
I'm definitely fine with that being part of the Puka ride, though. So I think that's one thing we've learned about his career arc is that, he takes the licks and he pays for it, but he's made out of concrete or something. I don't know, because he just keeps on turning up. And like he missed that game in London, and that's really the only time they've taken him and not played him. Did you really need him against the Jags? They won 465-0. So
that was the game where Adams had 3 touchdowns. So that was pretty much what I was bringing up. And my God, Matthew Stafford is on fire. Another thing I got right. I talked up Matthew Stafford as a good fantasy option this year in NRL and just general NFL fantasy. And I actually almost got him as SuperCoach like halfway through the year because I just felt like there were signs there with Adams and Puka there that he was going to be far underrated as a fantasy asset this year. I wish I had actually taken that advice in SuperCoach because he's been dominating. It's like, was it the last 6 weeks? He's like 20 touchdowns and no picks. Like, my God, he is just killing it this year. So I'm very happy I got a few leagues of him, especially in Superflex leagues, because I got him super late and he has just returned value in spades.
Oh my gosh. And for those who are old enough, he's having the Nick Foles season. If anyone remembers that one. What do you have, 27 touchdowns and 2 intercepts or something after he came in for Carson Wentz that year. And that's Matt Stafford is the new Nick Foles.
My whole thesis on that was just that Devontae Adams from last year's Cooper Cup was such a massive upgrade, and it was an upgrade in the passing game for touchdowns specifically. So it's like, well, how is that not going to help? And then all of a sudden they're not going to Kyron as much, even though Kyron still had 2 touchdowns last week himself, but that aren't just using him on the goal line every time. It's like, yes, Kyron might get one, but then all of a sudden the next goal line opportunity is going Stafford to Adams, like, or Stafford to Puka occasionally, or Stafford to one of the 600 tight ends they have. Like, it's Stafford's just getting more of those goal line opportunities to pass. So, yeah, it's just changing everything for the pass catches and Stafford himself.
Well, last week was the perfect thing. Like Kyron with 2, Adams with 2, Nakua with 1, and one of the sprinkling of tight ends had 1. It was just the perfect sauce.
Sorry, I know we've stuck on this for super long. I will say I do think this is going to be a very good Puka game because Seattle's got a good defense. I don't think there's going to be like an absurd amount of red zone opportunities. So I think I know that sounds like against what I'm talking about, but I think this would be the kind of game where Puka's far more involved than Adams. Like, Adams is great and great route runner, but I don't know if there's going to be super amount of touchdown opportunities for him. So I can imagine they're going to want to like pepper the guy like Puka that they're going to need in this like tighter contest, because they've had contests recently where they're just boat racing the other team, so they've just shared it around. I think he hyper targets Puka in this game. Not to say that Adams couldn't. Adams is also coming in under an injury cloud himself, so I just think this is the kind of game where I think Puka could actually be great, even though the data says Seattle's a tough team to actually throw on. I think the game script and the game style, it probably being a close game, actually tends to Puka having a very good game.
Yeah, 24-23 kind of game, I reckon. It'll be fine. Yeah. Fine. That's where Puka eats. Mate, I want to see this guy eat. George Kittle's the last guy on our trade-in list, and 260-odd Supercoaches have found value in him at almost 14 million. He's taken a bit of a shot in value over the year because even when he's been back, he kind of hasn't been used the way he used to be. We were really hopeful for him to have a big year at the start of the season. His projection's only as low as 13, which I kind of think is a bit mean. His break even at 28, I feel like more reflects what I might expect out of George Kittle in a game against... It's a Cardinals defense that doesn't scare me, and we expect that this could be the return of Brock Purdy as well, and I think that matters.
Thank you. That's literally what I was going to lead with. And, I know he had a decent game with Mac last week, but that was more game script. Like, I think I even brought it up in our little messenger chat that I felt like Kittle was probably in for a good game just out of necessity because they were getting smoked early by the Rams. And obviously this Niners defense is so beat up. I know they're beat up everywhere, but the defense is just horrendously beat up that they're probably going to give up points most weeks. So I think there is actually more opportunity for the passing game, and I really like Kittle moving forward because of that, because they're still obviously missing guys on the offensive side as well. I really trust him with Purdy far more than Mac Jones. And like I already talked about, last week was only a necessity thing with Mac Jones. Generally, he hasn't looked for Kittle as much as Brock Purdy has. So I think that connection getting back together paired with a bad Niners defense, I think it's going to open up a lot in the passing game. They're going to be in higher scoring games. They're going to need to pass. It can't all just be McCaffrey on the ground. Yes, it's going to be a lot of McCaffrey in the air. It always is. But I just think there's going to be enough space there for Kittle to be super involved as well. And yeah, with Purdy coming back, I just think it's a no-brainer. I know, I'm just making the proclamation now. At price, I would rather Kittle than McBride. And I know that's not going to be popular from what we've seen, but for $4 million less, and this is what I've brought up about tiers and looking at guys in the high-end side of tight end, I just think for $4 million less, I think you're not going to get $4 million less in production from Kittle moving forward than you do McBride.
And now SuperCoach Halfa, get your edge, get faster.
It's mailbag time.
Let's do it.
Wait, where do you want to kick this one off? I've found you're kind of the key to us getting to the super coaches out there, and I just didn't have as many avenues to get to as many questions as we do when we've got you around. Who are we helping this week?
Yeah, I did my classic Photoshop where I put my own face on Randy Marsh and his massive ball sack. So, that's just a classic Taylor Goodall Photoshop. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. Off the bat, I just want to apologise to the gibberers group. Every single time I say that word, I have a stroke. But I had a laugh of them all in there last week. But I sent a mailbag post in there, and about 30 minutes later, my phone went dead. And I haven't even been able to recharge it. So I haven't seen any questions that have gone through there. So So a few guys that have popped up in their mailbag a fair bit. I'm not going to actually be able to see your questions. So I look forward to looking at them later. I might even jump in there and answer them for you guys when I see them, but I won't be able to put them on the podcast tonight. So we've actually got some different names. One I think's been on here before, but we haven't got as many because the Jibbers group probably provide a few of them, and I probably should have got the post out a day earlier. I might start trying to get out on a Wednesday instead, so we've got more time for people to get their questions in. But generally, we've got 10 to 15 questions already, so we do pretty well. But this week, we've got a little bit of a concise sort of amount of questions. So first time person reaching out to the mailbag, Tom Rogers. I know someone that's been huge in this SuperCoach community across all sports. So thank you for writing in, Tom.
Hey, good on you, Tom.
If you had to pick one position, quarterback not included, to avoid pods on the run home, what would it be? So it's funny because I knew this question was here and it's kind of been ticking in my mind as I've sort of talked about the trades. I think it's wide receiver. We've talked about not wanting mid-rangers in that position. There is just so much high-end talent. You know, people are looking to bring in Rasheed. People are generally using money from like downgrading Dart to McCarthy to then upgrade wide receiver, and I think it's smart. I honestly, if I'm taking flyers and starting or going for like guys that aren't getting a start a lot, I'm looking at running back and running back matchups. I think the matchups matter more at running back, I think, than wide receiver, because I think some of these like super talented wide receivers just get it done against everyone. So I think wide receivers where you need to just be stacked with the top guys, because we always say this, and Tom himself has always been a proponent of this in the NRL side of it. He said pods are only great if they're outscoring the non-pods, like, or if they're outscoring the guys that everyone owns. It's like, yes, it's great to have a pod because you want to try and go up those standings, but if they're not beating the guys that everyone has, then you're just going backwards. So you really, really got to have at least some conviction that these guys you're bringing in are going to outscore the guys that everyone has. And I just don't see that with these mid-ranges in the wide receiver position. Whereas I could see like a Travion Henderson and RJ Harvey, if he's got the main job, guys in that range actually outscoring some of these running backs. Whereas wide receiver, I think you need the top dogs. And obviously,
I think so too.
Quarterback wasn't a part of this. I just think you can have anyone a kicker. You stream defenses. Like I brought up Ravens as a cheap defense to bring up. I made that trade myself to facilitate trades elsewhere, and I'm very happy moving forward. They've got great matchups. If you want to go pods, go like the defensive and not kicker, because I think everyone just started Tyler Loop and we're just sticking with him. There's no reason to use a trade there.
Loop and regardless, that New England kicker, I've just run with them all year. They're both about 8 million now, and they both started at 4.
it's like
whatever.
So I think defense is a good spot to maybe go a pod there, or tight end to a degree. Like, I still think you need the hiring guys, but I've talked about possibly going away from Trey McBride and going like a Kittle. Not many people own Kittle compared to McBride, especially after this week. So I maybe go him. Like, maybe it doesn't need to be a pod that's only started by like 2%. I just think that's still a pod route by going a Kittle instead of a McBride, because McBride's most traded in. So that range I would like, but obviously the question was not go pods. So wide receiver is my position for this question.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's fair too, because it is the engine room of your team. You've got 6 starters in there in a world where, our lineup is like a third reliant on your wide receivers just being bulletproof, and they're just so reliant on a few things going right for them that you've got to have the guys who are the most likely to have those things go right for them. Trying to pick a wide receiver out of a haystack who's just going to throw up a good week or 2 in a row is super hard. So, I tend to agree with you on that one, Tay.
Thank you, mate. It's good to hear. All right, we'll get to the next question from our boy Manjot Melly. The fuck do we do with Justin Jefferson? Now, I don't think he said it in that exact way, but I thought that would just fit our criteria on the show.
I think he said it that way.
So, thank you, Manjot.
I think he said it. I sit next to him all Saturday at the gridiron, and I think that's what he's thinking a lot of the time when he has to say it nice and that to go out free on YouTube. So
Now, look, when I wrote it in my doc, I put it as FUQ, not CK. So that's a bit nicer. So, that might be a bit more friendly, family friendly. But Yeah, look, we sort of touched on Jefferson, obviously, in the traded outs. You and I are proponents of probably keeping him just because it's a bit of a sunk cost.
I can't quit him.
I just think that it's, like, again, I brought up the $4 million difference between McBride and Kittle, and me thinking that Kittle was better value. Do I think that Rice is guaranteed? I'm just using Rice as an example of people maybe trading to, but is there guaranteed to be $4 million better scoring from Rice than there is Jefferson? I'm not sold on that. So it's like, I don't see the point in trading him at $13 or so million. I think there's better days for McCarthy. So I personally would hold if I had him there, Job.
Yeah, I mean, and we already know where I stand on that. I just can't quit the guy. I'm sick for Justin Jefferson. That's just how it is.
All right, and our last one is a two-part question. So we've got Kane Anderson. Is Waller ever coming back? Considering downgrading to Musgrave. I've touched on that. I touched on it a lot last week.
Perfect.
I still think it fits this week. I still think if you're trading Waller, a downgrade makes most sense. I obviously did the Loveland thing, but Loveland's gone higher than Waller now, so that's not viable. But yeah, Musgrave's the most obvious because he's going to have a role in that Green Bay Packers offense moving forward with Kraft out for the season. So I like that because I think you can use that money. You really don't want a lot of money in your third tight end. So I do like that trade from Kane. The next part of it was also considering downgrading Tet to enough. We also touched on that in the Tet McMillan most traded out part. I'm actually okay with that. I would just have a look at your starting wide receivers and work out how many of them have buys left. If it's none or one, I'm fine with it because you don't need the coverage so much and you can spend that money elsewhere because he's just a bench wide receiver for you at that point. But I also, if you're going the other route, I don't mind upgrading him to help you starter either. So, yeah, I love Tet the player, but I do have concerns about his ceiling and upside on this Panthers team that likes to run the ball and has Bryce throwing for 100 to 150 yards some games. So, yeah, mate, I've got absolutely no problem with that.
I would distill this down into one thing, is to say if you've got 6 players who you know are top 15 in scoring at wide receiver that you're happy to ride with the rest of the year, I have no problem with Tet being your 7th and just nothing the 8th to make sure you've got that top 15 thing covered in your 6. If you're not in that position and Tet's one of your 6, I'm nervous for you. If he's your 7th or your 8th, 100%, this is a move that's fair. I just like the idea of keeping him as my 7th because if CeeDee Lamb pulls a hammy tomorrow, I think McMillan can still start for me. That's the reason I'm holding on to McMillan and not nuffing him yet as well.
Oh, if he's just 6, don't nuff him. If he's just 6, that has to upgrade. Like if he's just 6, you need to use money from data or whatever to upgrade to say Rice or any of the other top line guys. So again, it is super
you have
specific.
To have 6 bulletproof guys to me.
Yeah, honestly,
McMillan as your 7th. He can't be higher up your list than 7th. I think if you're considering selling him, he will still have a role if one of your bulletproof 6 gets something unforeseen happens. Like the 6 I've got in there, none of them have buys left. So I'm happy with that. But it's the things you can't forecast. You just need a cheap bit of coverage where he cost you $4 million, right? Everyone had him from the start. He cost you $4 million. He's worth 10 now, but he's worth more than that if he can start for you because Nakua is out for a week and you didn't plan it. He's so worth so much more than $10 million to you then. And I just can't imagine the world where I'm willing to run so risky this far out. When, especially if you're in a position where you don't have that like bulletproof 6.
Yeah, I probably want my 7 to be like an Egg Booker as well if I'm nothing. Like if I'm saying he's my 8th, then I probably want a very good 7th as well in front of him. Because like you said, if you get a late injury late in the year and we're struggling in trades, you don't want to necessarily have to trade that guy out. So I'm probably wanting an Egg Booker and a Dunze or something, or someone like with pretty good coverage to be that guy. So, yeah, it obviously depends who's the 7th in front of the 8th, who it is. But, yeah, I think in general, if you are super confident that he's your 8th best wide receiver, I don't mind the nuff route.
Yeah, but no, I'm still comfortable with it if he's your 7th. I'm comfortable with that. So I guess this is one of these things where it depends. Like I haven't been bitten enough. The thing is, Tay, I'm this whole SuperCoach thing. I haven't been bitten in soft spots that hurt a whole lot from having played this game in AFL or rugby league yet. So I'm playing with this wonderful reckless abandon of being like, if it goes wrong, at least McMillan can start. Where it sounds like you're playing this from a position of someone who's just seen more and has been hurt a little bit more than me.
For sure, but I'll say, and we'll touch on our trades, I'm not actually making any this week, and I have Tet, so I'm not actually trading Tet myself. I've got a situation where I've got 5 bona fide guns at wide receiver, and I'm running Egbuka because I see Egbuka as like a play for the rest of the year, and I just don't see it as enough of an upgrade to force myself to spend money on like Tet up to like Rice or something when I can just plug Egbuka in as my 6. I'm fine with that for now. So I'm holding trades because I just don't see the value in having to go up to say Rice now, because I think there's like a 40 to 45% chance that Egbuka scores the same as Rice, if not more. So I'm going to take that shot and save myself the trade.
Yeah, I mean, and I get it, but I guess this is, my inexperience can sometimes just leave me to feel like I have the freedom to do more things because I just haven't seen what can really go wrong.
Sure. And like, this is why when we're answering questions, it doesn't mean that's exactly what I would do in my team. Like, this is why, we're trying to give advice, but doesn't mean that's specific to my team. It's very specific to yours, the people asking the questions. So, as much info as you can put in these questions, the better, because it gives us a better idea of what is going on in your team.
Especially being Tet owners too, I think it's helpful to be able to say, hey, look, I'm a Tet owner, and here's how I feel, but here's my situation, and that's why. Yep. So it just helps layer the context.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That is a great mailbag segment. I know it wasn't 50 questions deep, but they were just good questions, T.
Yeah, and like sometimes if you do less questions, you can sort of go a little bit more in depth. So I felt like that was good. But like I said, I will put up a post a bit earlier next week, and then for the Gibberish group, I will hopefully not lose my phone battery on that phone, so I can answer some of those questions too.
As in, like, less is more? Is that what you mean?
Maybe I will lose my battery on purpose. We'll see.
Maybe. Mate, the thing that we do, and you mentioned this a moment ago, that we tend to try and do as we leave the show each week too, is just talk a little about our own teams and where we've made trades. It sounds really nice that you've been in a position where you don't need to make any trades, but that does shorten the segment somewhat, and I feel like you're not creating enough drama for a radio show.
You're not wrong. It's just a very specific situation for my team. I mentioned that, yes, I could have been looking at upgrading like Daniel Jones up to a Lamar, but I'm just going to kind of hold pat on that. I've only got 6 trades left, so I want to sort of hold that just to see what sort of happens later with injuries and stuff like that. I just don't feel forced in anything right now. I'm happy to play McCarthy against the Bears as my flex, so I'm not forced in anything there. I mentioned I've got 5 like top line wide receivers and then plugging Egbuka at 6. I'm already struggling with who to sit as my 5th running back already, not playing that sort of top 4. So I'm like, I don't feel forced to upgrade there. I'm fine. I'm not in the situation where I'm in the top 10 or anything where I feel forced into actually playing someone over like Warren. I'm just plugging in playing Colston Loveland. I really like his situation. Whoever Komet plays or not, I'm fine with him at the moment. Just plugging him in for Warren this week, and then probably not needing to play Loveland moving forward outside of an injury. So, I just don't feel forced into anything. I've got Loop as my kicker. I've got Baltimore that I traded for last week in defense. I'm happy with my team for this week, and I'm just going to stay pat and see what the rest of the year brings me.
All right, and I think you and I have got so many things that are similar, but just enough things that are different that I think kind of shows, again, like maybe I just haven't been bitten hard enough in SuperCoach to realise sometimes maybe I'm just way up high without a net. But my trades, and I'm going to read off the trades, and I think it will probably inform a little bit about the way my team's built at the moment, is that I kicked guys like Hawkinson, the LA Rams defense, and Travis Etienne, who I've been holding for a very long time, to the side. And essentially that's in the realm of 26 million bucks and 27 odd million bucks. And what I've done with that money is then I just went through the cheapest defense I could find who I thought has any chance of scoring any points this week. And that's the San Francisco defense. Because I'm not scared of Arizona, whatever. But the other defense I've carried most of the year too is either Tennessee or Jacksonville. And I sort of hit a point where I needed to move one because of a bye, and I moved Jacksonville. So I've been rolling with Tennessee the rest of the year, and actually shifting between the Rams, who we talked about before, you were sort of away for a few weeks. That's when I moved them in. They made me a little bit of money. I'm sending them out. It means that with the remaining 20 million bucks, I've gone and plugged Musgrave in for Hawkinson, and just for a 1 week throw at the stumps, I'm going to roll with Flacco in my flex. And I'm going to roll with Flacco in my flex.
Joseph Flacco.
For two reasons. This is kind of like, and it's a little bit of a pod play, but also it's like, I just need a guy who I can trust to score me some points, because next week I've got a few spots where I can do a similar thing, where I can do the Hawkinson out to Musgrave, save myself some bucks there. I can do something like that in my running back situation too. I'm carrying Vidal and Henderson and a couple of big price guys in my starting spot. So I can probably drop Vidal down with Flacco to move myself into Lamar Jackson. That's the end play I want there, a quarterback. So I've still got McCarthy on the bench. I just didn't want to put him under the pressure of having a start this week, where I'm happy with Flacco in a 1 week situation.
Yeah, look, it's hilarious because we had the question about positions not to run pods, and then he basically put the caveat of leaving out quarterback because we assumed that that's the position we'd say first, and you're just like, fuck this, I'm going to pod quarterback in my flex.
I'm still doing it, and it's a 1 week. It's just a 1 week. I'm not married to him, and we'll be getting a very swift divorce next week. But that's the thinking, right? If it, Flacco is Flacco, right? He could just tomorrow. He's like Jameis Winston, isn't he? He could go and throw up a 46. Fine, that'd be great. He'd go up and throw up a 14. Well, that's going to really fucking hurt. So, yeah, I haven't been burned too many times, and I'm just willing. In Flacco we trust, brother. In Flacco we trust.
He's got a good matchup against the Steelers too. They
that secondary is tough.
To the past. Yeah, I don't mind it, honestly. It could be a very good pod play for this week. So, yeah, mate, go for it.
I'm old enough to remember that they've got this wide receiver named Jamar Chase who gets like 21 targets a week as well, and he makes a lot with them. So I'm pretty happy with that as a 1 week play, and it's just kind of informs that I'm playing a little risky business, and I've absolutely nuffed my my defenses combined are worth about $8 million. Like, I have just sold my defenses because to me there's just not enough disparity in the way they score. You need something fluky to happen there. Any defense can do something fluky. Like holding an opposing team to less than a certain amount of points a week is not a sustainable way to score fantasy points. You just have to punt on which one you think will create the turnovers and which one is lucky enough to take one to the house. That is the only way you score points with fantasy defenses in any format of the game that's standard, that people will just play with their mates. And that's the basis of how the scoring is here. So I'm just taking the punt on knowing that that's how I've built my teams around fantasy defenses in the past. And as you and I tell you, we're big proponents of in other forms of fantasy. Let's evolve. Let's move away from defenses. But because we have to have them here, I'm just treating them with utter disrespect.
That'll be, mate. Sounds good.
And that brings us to the end of a SuperCoach hour and a halfer. We've become so accustomed to these, Tay. And usually for the last month or so, you've had to listen to 3 episodes to get to the hour and a half. Immediately, we pick it up just where we left off.
Absolutely, mate. Do you mind if we just touch on one other thing super fast? I just wanted to do one shot at stumps player, because we talk about the most traded out, traded in. And
are you jealous of my Flacco play?
Yeah, of course. I'm like, yeah, it's not fair that one of the hosts is allowed to bring up some pod or something. And I just thought if we just did this moving forward, it would be somewhat. It'd be good for us to just do a little bit of analysis on someone that, not everyone's starting, and just honestly to come back next week and just sort of see in the segment to see how we went with this guy, and just to sort of flex our analysis muscle, I guess, just to try and think of someone that isn't obvious out there that might not be started everywhere. And whether you're in a regular NFL fantasy league, this might help as well. So,
what do you think's your ace of spades this week then, mate?
Look, I've got my throw at the stumps that I've called it. Pat Frymuth at the tight end position against the Bengals, who are last against the tight end position. He hasn't had a great. He's only had 230 odd yards, but 111 of those came against the Bengals in week 7. So 5 for 111 and a touchdown. He's owned by a whopping 1% of players in SuperCoach. So not exactly someone out there that. Is being owned by a lot of people, but I just thought I'd throw that out as my throw at the stumps for this week, Matty C.
There's no way he's owned by as many as 1%. There's just no fucking way. That is rounded up.
That did seem super high.
Oh my God. If that comes off, I'm going to be so impressed. Oh my God.
Yeah, I just thought it's not a bad little thing for us to just check on each week. Just throwing someone out there.
Man, I'm gonna bring one too because I'm not going to be starting Flacco any other week of the year. So you've inspired me.
Thank you.
Well, with that, look, the SuperCoach Halfa, we're brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network. So check out our great stable of shows. G'day Gridiron. They do all the NFL analysis and they're out midweek and also on a weekend show too, reacting to prior week's games. They take fan reactions and they do a whole bunch on the games that you have to see on the Sunday slate, preview the Monday and Thursday night football games as well. You can also catch Tay and I Fridays and Sundays on the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. We've got a great guest this week too, another new voice of the podcast. I'm super excited that we're going to get to meet this week. And Tay, in the meantime, our super coaches can win free stuff from that league. Just give you that league code. It's 962235. You and I, no chance of winning it, but everyone else is.
Yeah, look, whether I was allowed to win it or not, I don't think I'll be a chance of winning it. So that's a good to tick one name off the list. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for the support, guys. And, to have 300 plus people in there, engaged, it's just been phenomenal. So we hope that you've enjoyed our content this year. It's only going to get bigger and better for the seasons to come. And, I hope someone walks away, with a brand new jersey. So thank you so much.
It's going to be so great. In the meantime, I'm going to get out of here. Me, Matty C. I'll see you next week. Hooroo, SuperCoaches.
Hooroo, SuperCoaches. Thank you.
SuperCoach Halfa. Get your edge, get it faster. Taylor leads, Matty's laughter. NFL SuperCoach Halfa. NFL SuperCoach Halfa.